The controversy surrounding teacher Kayla Lemieux is escalating. For those that aren't familiar with the story, this is an image of a biological male who came out as transgender and now wears oversized novelty breasts to school in front of high school children. Now, many people have pointed out or stated that these are prosthetic breasts, but they're not. They're not. And I'll say that for a few reasons. One, the definition of prosthesis is a false body part meant to replace something. I guess you could argue that it's just a false body part, but typically prosthetics are a replacement body part for something that is missing. Some people may be born without a hand. We give them a hand. Now, I suppose some people may argue that the large, oversized novelty breasts are a prosthetic, but this man does, in fact, have breasts. So I want to make this, I'm not trying to be mean or anything or disrespectful. I'm trying to make a simple point. When you have hands, if you lose a hand and then get a prosthetic hand, it goes over where your hand used to be. This male individual has male breasts. Believe it or not, men have breast tissue, just not that much. Men can get breast cancer. To wear this over the chest would be more like if you felt like you had small hands, so you wore gloves to make your hands look like they were bigger. Or, something akin to that. Like if you got a big fake hand and put it over your hand. That I would not refer to as the prosthetic. I would call an oversized novelty hand. And I would also like to point out that my understanding, and I could be wrong, is that they do not make prosthetics like this. So when women undergo double mastectomies, for instance, or mastectomy, the removal of breast tissue due to cancer, they will often get a prosthetic implant, a prosthetic or an implant. That means something designed to replace the body part that is missing. And it's usually for psychological reasons, for social reasons, and sometimes for medical reasons. If you're going to be running, for instance, it's not psychological that you need a prosthetic leg so that you can be walking. In this instance, this is, I would say, psychological, but I do not believe, and I could be wrong, that these large these oversized novelty breasts, I believe they are likely produced from an adult fetish site. So this is the news, the update here. Many children at the school have been complaining about this online and posting videos. The Daily Mail reports, Canadian high school defends transgender teacher who wore enormous prosthetic breasts underneath tight t-shirt to class. Now, again, I want to stress, I do not believe prosthetic is the appropriate word. I believe oversized novelty breasts is probably more correct as to what these are. And that is not a moral judgment statement. I am just trying to make a factual statement. Now, some have said it's semantic. Sure, I suppose you could argue it is semantic. But my point is, I do not believe doctors would prescribe 50-pound or 95-pound prosthetics to women who undergo mastectomies or things like that. Unless, of course, they are large and with large bust sizes. There is a world-famous woman. She's a Guinness Book of World Records for the largest breasts, which are comparable in size to these oversized novelty breasts. They weigh 95 pounds. I believe it could be 90 pounds or so. Maybe it's 85. Somewhere around there, conflicting reports. I don't think a doctor is going to say, hey, you should carry this. In fact, often doctors say we need to reduce the tissue because it's extremely bad for your back and for your spine, things like this. So again, I think these are toys. Now, the big story here is, a lot of people are calling this out, saying it's absurd. They're insulting it. They're mocking it. This is just the beginning of something I pointed out quite a while ago. That if the law specifically protects gender expression, which it does, and you can express your gender any way you want, you can wear literally anything. Obviously, in this instance, we're talking about breasts, which are secondary sex characteristics for females. This is a male individual who would like to express that by wearing these things. But it's going to extend well beyond this. This is just the beginning. I pointed out that it's, sooner or later, you'll have someone wearing a fursuit, a furry costume, or you'll have people wearing who knows what? Robot suits. Because how you express your gender is entirely subjective. In fact, in New York, I can actually show you the law. It's ill-defined. The clothes you wear, you cannot be discriminated against. Let me say that again. What they are saying in the law is that they cannot discriminate against you based on the clothing you wear. Now, that's where things get really interesting. What if you wore a shirt with a slur on it or something like that? Well, I'll tell you, my friends. I talked to several human rights lawyers out of New York, and they told me that if you did something as absurd as that, the court would laugh you out. Will the court laugh at this man? I do not believe so. This male individual identifies as a woman. This individual is being defended by the school, likely because they don't feel they would win in court. Here's the story. Kayla Lemieux, a manufacturing technology teacher at Oakville Trafalgar High School in Ontario, has been pictured online taking classes while wearing the huge prosthetics. Giving classes. I think this is an important distinction. Miss Lemieux, who began transitioning from male to female a year ago, has gone viral after students took photos and videos of the teacher seemingly without her knowledge. Now, I want to pause again, too, because this is really frustrating. There is no confirmation on pronouns for this individual. And I'm trying to get all the language right. What we know is the individual may not be trans, according to some news reports, so it is what it is. In response, the high school has doubled down and defended the employee, writing to parents and explaining why they support Miss Lemieux's gender expression. Now, I'll come back to these images, but I want to show you the email in question. It says, "Dear Oakville Trafalgar High School families, we are aware of discussion on social media and in the media regarding Oakville Trafalgar High School. We would like to take this opportunity to reiterate to our community that we are committed to establishing and maintaining a safe, caring, inclusive, equitable, and welcoming learning and working environment for all students and staff. As a school within the Halton District School Board, Oakville Trafalgar High School recognizes the rights of students, staff, parents, guardians, and community members to equitable treatment without discrimination based upon gender identity and gender expression." That's it. Gender identity and gender expression are protected grounds under the Ontario Human Rights Code. I'm going to pause there. We're going to come back to that. But I do want to point some things out. This is important here. In this video, this is what first went viral. It says, during one class, Miss Lemieux was filmed operating machinery while wearing her large prosthetics. They are not prosthetics. They are oversized novelty breasts, I believe likely came from an adult fetish site. I am not saying that to disparage the individual. I'm making a statement of fact. I do not believe doctors prescribe these items. Now, when you are using I believe it's a circular saw, I could be wrong. Many people have pointed out this is extremely dangerous. No apron, no goggles, no mask, no dangling objects near any saws, including large, oversized breasts. And I'm being completely serious on this. There are rules. Even if women have large natural busts, you have to have a smock or an apron to secure yourself because you don't want things moving around. This is an extremely dangerous object. This right here should be a violation of safety protocols. Nothing else. You want to talk about the law and what is protected and what isn't? Fine. Let me show you this. From the Cornell Law School. Now, I know we're jumping between Canada and the United States, and there's a distinction here. But let me show you this, how it will affect us in the United States. Gender identity means a person's self-identified gender, which may or may not correspond with their birth sex. Identity is how a person experiences and expresses their gender. Now, that is from Cornell. I'd like to bring you specifically, and notice expression is included under there. That's important because they say that several states explicitly prohibit discrimination on the basis of identity. Now, let's take a look at New York City specifically. It says here, legal definitions in their human rights law. Gender expression is the representation of gender as expressed through one's name, pronouns, clothing, hairstyle, behavior, voice, or similar characteristics. Gender expression may or may not conform to gender stereotypes, norms, and expectations in a given culture or historical period. Gender expression is not the same as sexual orientation or gender identity. Terms associated with gender expression include, but are not limited to, androgynous, butch, female, woman, feminine, femme, gender nonconforming, male, masculine, etc., non-binary. Okay, let's get down to brass tacks. Brass tacks. Gender identity is also protected, but this is important. They say 3 violations of the New York City human rights law prohibitions on gender discrimination. Gender discrimination under the NYCHRL includes discrimination on the basis of gender identity and gender expression. Now let's go back to when I said I called a lawyer. Human rights lawyers. And I had some questions. If gender expression includes your name, pronoun, clothing, hairstyle, behavior, voice, or similar characteristics, and may or may not conform to norms, expectations in a given culture or historical period, let's walk you through where this goes. Gender expression is protected. That's what we saw from that school. This is why this individual can wear oversized novelty breasts, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. This means, and I mean this quite literally, that someone could show up in bondage gear and you cannot discriminate against them. Now let's walk through this slowly and from the beginning. A biological male one day shows up dressed as a female with fake breasts and with a wig on and otherwise a dress. Now that is the intent of the law, that you can't discriminate against this person for how they express their gender. I'm talking about, maybe C-cup prosthetics or like literal prosthetics. You couldn't discriminate against the person because the person is expressing their gender. Well, that also means that an individual can wear large, triple Z oversized novelty breasts, and there's nothing you can do. In fact, there's an argument. Some women have large breasts. What determines whether or not a breast is a legitimate expression of gender? Interesting point. But it also just says clothing, hairstyle. Okay. What about a tall wig, a foot tall? Some women wear their hair up really tall. What if you get to the point where you go 2 or 3 feet tall, Marge Simpson style? It doesn't matter if it seems strange. It is protected, which brings me to historical period. Okay, now things are starting to get weird. Why is historical period protected here? If any and all of it is protected. I talked to a lawyer, and this is how, several actually, and they walked me through this. They said, if someone went to court, someone got fired because they were wearing, prosthetic breasts or a dress or whatever, they're fine. They're protected. They will win. It's a $125,000 fine if it's involuntary and $250,000 fine if it's voluntary. Meaning, if an individual was wearing this clothes, you said, I don't care. You can't wear that here. Get out. And they knew it was wrong. It's double the fine. I said, what if somebody, clothing, and it doesn't have to conform to a stereotype. What if someone wore like bunny ears? And they're like, well, now you're getting a little silly. It wouldn't pass the laugh test. The laugh test? Yeah, a judge would laugh it out of the courtroom. Like, get out. That's not what the law is supposed to protect. What about oversized novelty breasts, size triple Z? No, for real. I think someone brought up like the comparables on those, and it's like, 60 triple Z or something. Would a judge laugh that out? Would a judge laugh at a woman who naturally has large breasts? Therein lies the issue. If it's protected, it's protected. Where is the line? Interpretable. So perhaps right now you will say that a judge will laugh it out, but I give you 50 years, and they won't. The example I like to use is the banning of public drinking in New York. When the law was initially passed, they said something. One of the city councilmen said, this law will not be construed to say that a man can't enjoy a beer with his lunch at work. That's exactly what it is. You can't even sit on your own porch in New York City and have a beer. On your own property, they will fine you for this. So where do we go? Well, I pointed out that sooner or later, someone's gender expression will be a fake voice, using a voice changer, and wearing a fursuit. Why not? That's how they express their gender. Historical period is where it got really interesting. So I asked the lawyer, what if somebody dressed up like a Southern plantation owner? I mean, look, you're saying any clothing and any historical period? You mean to tell me that a guy can dress up like a plantation owner and walk in and that's protected? Like you could get that's insane. And they said, no, they'll laugh out of the courtroom. But historical period is quite literally protected here. So no, I don't think so. I don't think it will be laughed out. And I said, if they can laugh out someone wearing a historical period piece costume, why could not a judge laugh at a man dressed in a dress? You can't give me a good reason. As long as that law stands, I think it's fairly obvious where this goes. It will lead to that place where someone will show up dressed like Vociferon Herald of the Winter Mists. That will be their name. And they'll say, look, someone will apply for a job at Starbucks. They'll show up on their first day in a full fursuit with platform shoes and a voice changer that makes their voice sound like this. I am Vociferon, Herald of the Winter Mists. Heed my name. And I'm not kidding. And it's not meant to be funny. It's meant to point out the extent to which this law will be carried. Now, some people say it's too absurd. It'll never happen. I'm telling you, we are at the point now where a school is outright defending oversized novelty breasts as gender expression. And far be it from me to tell someone they can't do it. The law is the law. Now the school is saying this. The Toronto Sun reports, Halton School Board prepares for backlash. They're worried about the safety of the individual and the violence that may come. Look, I don't care how somebody dresses. I'll tell you this. Get your kids out of these schools. This is Canada. It's not the United States. It is what it is. Here in the U.S., though, I think it's fair to say it's coming. They're going to say gender identity can be, a bunch of different things. Male to female, male to trans, pangender, woman of trans experience. There's 31 different genders that are recognized in New York City. Sooner or later, someone's going to get a job. And it may come and go in increments. That's how it always goes. Someone will get a job at Starbucks. They'll show up the next day wearing very large prosthetic breasts. Legitimately prosthetic. I don't mean oversized novelty. I mean just large. And they may say, okay, yikes, what do we do? It's within the realm of reason, the size, but it may be off-putting. Maybe the person comes in dressed as a drag queen in full costume. And they say, you can't dress that way. I certainly can. It's my gender expression. Outright, the gender expression law will plainly state that uniforms are not protected. You can come in and say, this is a male masculine outfit I refuse to wear. I want a dress and a tiara. Is Starbucks going to have to provide that or allow it? I think the answer is yes. You can't tell someone they can't wear clothing that doesn't conform to their gender. What if someone shows up the next day and they're wearing leathers? And you say, this is how I express my gender. Are you going to discriminate against me? Sooner or later, it's going to happen. And as it carries on, it'll be in increments. First, they'll say, this person is just dressing like a woman. What do we do? Can't do anything. The next day, you'll get a man with oversized novelty breasts. And they'll be like, okay, that's crossing the line. They'll be like, but they're just breasts. What if someone has a third breast? And I'm not trying to be funny. What if someone comes in with 3, like in Total Recall? What are you going to say? Are you going to argue it's a prosthetic? We're all missing a third nipple. Well, not everybody. Some people have, what are they called? Superfluous? Is that the word? I don't know. Superfluous? Maybe that's not the right word. Vestigial? No, it's not vestigial. But some people will actually do this. What happens if someone comes in wearing fake wings? What happens if someone comes in wearing a tail? Where is the line? You can argue a court can laugh it out. But I argue, what is their basis for saying this law should be void? Is it that humans don't have tails? Some humans do have tails. That's right. And they have to get it surgically removed. And if they do, then why can't you have a large tail? Are you going to say humans don't have wings? Okay, perhaps. But who's to say that's not the clothing I'm wearing to express my gender? Where's the line? Behavior. Now, this is where it's really crazy. You understand that behavior can be detrimental and negative. It can be aggressive and angry. Does this mean they can't fire you? What if someone comes in and says, I identify as this gender and I'm a mean girl? You've seen Mean Girls, right? Rachel McAdams, Lindsay Lohan. What if someone says that as part of the gender expression, they want to be a snooty valley girl? So a customer comes in and they're like, my coffee wasn't good. Why? Did you spit in it or something? Was it bad? And they're like, you can't talk to customers that way. Actually, I can. My behavior is protected under New York human rights law. It doesn't say based on gender. It just says behavior, because you can't define a gendered behavior. It outright says it may not conform to gender stereotypes. What if you just start screaming? Bah, bah, bah. You say the laugh test, and I hear you, but I'm telling you, if a judge can say the grunt you are making is not protected, then why could they not say deepening your voice or raising your voice is also not protected? Is there not a person on this planet who would hear a 6'5" guy going, you have to refer to me as Janet, and they would laugh at that, even though it's a legitimate expression of gender? Yeah. This is where things go. They're saying they're worried about violence, but I tell you, if your kids are in these schools, it's only a matter of time. Maybe that's the goal. I don't know. I can only say that I don't think most people would want their kids to be taught by an individual who is doing something like this. So what do? Are you forced to defend the actions of this individual, to accept them and have your children be around this individual? Or do you say, we're going to vote to change this law, we don't accept this? Seamus Coughlin over at Freedom Tunes, he pointed out on Timcast IRL. He said it was, we all thought it was a slippery slope. Then it turned out it was a sheer cliff because we didn't just slowly go down. We went right over the edge. We announced we want to protect trans people, and I can respect that. And then you get this. Again, I will stress my concerns here is that I believe these are oversized novelty breasts from a fetish store, not a prescribed prosthesis from a doctor. And I think that's a reasonable assessment. Where's the line? What's the limit? School choice, my friends. You better move forward with the school choice stuff. It's the only thing I can really say. You need to make sure that your tax dollars are not being forced to pay for something like this, that you can choose to move your children out of these schools to somewhere where you feel they will be safer. Otherwise, it will not just end here. It will keep going. There will be more. It'll be more. It'll be different. This is completely unsafe next to a circular saw. And because of these laws, they can't even stop the individual from doing that. And I worry about the safety of all these people involved. But that's where we're at, and I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.